Welcome, my Auvorians, to the Saturday Forecast Trade Week call. My name is Steve Vetterl. Happy to be on the mic today. It is a new day. Phase 2 is well underway at Auvoria Prime. So welcome to all our new subscribers. Today's the 24th of October. I do these calls every Saturday at 10 a.m. and Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It would be essentially 1 p.m. Eastern time on Saturdays. So let's do a quick check, if I may. The Q&A window is open, chat window is open. Let's read the risk disclosure, but first let's double check that you guys can see the risk disclosure. Am I coming across okay on the microphone? So trading the foreign exchange markets carries high risk. May not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin and utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level risk that can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange markets or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully consider and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There's a possibility that you could potentially lose your entire account. Yes, that is true, but that is my role as the risk manager of this brand new organization, now almost 6-7 months old. We have come a tremendously long way. I'm not here to kiss any you-know-what, but I got to tell you, the collaboration and the work that everybody that has done has just been absolutely stupendous, and it's been quite the proud moment for somebody that's technically an outsider. So if you're sharing any of your results from using Alexander, Iris, Einstein, Variable, Stratamus, Neo, and Gearbox, please use the term company recommended settings. We are not having any recommended settings as a company. That is up to the developers and myself, obviously. We are not a financial advisory firm. We just license software you can use however you want at your own risk. Software does come with default settings. You have the ability to customize those. That's why I highly suggest all of the developers' calls that we have posted all over the place. So if somebody is not aware of the times, I want you to raise your hand in the chat window. I want you to just put in no, that you're not aware of the times for the developers' calls, so that we can get you educated and make sure that you sound the alarm as high as humanly possible. Just be like Paul Revere in the old days, running around your whole team on horseback if you need to, and let them know about all the developers' calls during the week, because I think it's going to be absolutely critical as we get softwares released, get past licensing, our coding. You always have issues in these launch, so I appreciate everybody's patience. Got a couple of emails on this, and while I think that's great that you guys think I now have solutions to some of these software problems, I'm not the developer. So let me just go to the second screen, make sure we get through this. Hey, look at that. There's yours truly. All right, so I'm going to close this down. Let's go into Forex Factory. Let's make sure we're sharing the right screen. All right, now on to what's most important. Keep in mind that Dasan just finished a call which lasted a little bit under 2 hours. It will be updated and uploaded to the back office. I would highly suggest that, and myself included, because I have not had a chance to watch the call, but once it's produced and put in the back, everybody go watch it. And if there's ever a time to send out texts, I know a lot of the good teams out there, Market Hackers, the Legacy Launchpad guys, different teams have done a really good job at communicating to their group about the call times with the developers and myself, obviously, and our other coaches. But I think it's most important to make sure, I would say that I'll go through this real quick today, and you can tell everybody, hey, just watch the first 10 minutes of Steve's call. The rest of it's just going to be technical analysis, but really put the time in over the next week of getting on, and whatever piece of software that you're going to be subscribing to, make sure that you get on the developers call and watch it. All right. So now that I'm off my soapbox, let's talk about the Forex Factory Weekly Calendar. Each of these events that you see on the screen is a red folder, could or could not have a large impact on the currency markets. My role, again, for some of our new subscribers as the risk manager for the team is to kind of try and help you guys keep your powder dry. If things are going to be volatile, turn the trading systems off. I do get some of you run through all news events. I do not. Okay, so just because I do and you don't want to, that's fine. But for those that are beginners or new and looking for a more conservative approach during big time events, Brexit, the first beginnings of COVID, right? And what I'm about to tell you in the next 2 weeks are really, really large events. And even if I'm dead wrong and we get some decent trading during these crazy movements, I don't care. It's the same conversation I have with my clients. Oh, I am. Let me just go forward here. Thank you for that. I always make that mistake. Isn't that funny? I think I'd learn. So this is next week. I haven't really gotten into the reports yet, but this is October 25th through the 31st. And honestly, guys, regardless of what happens this week, I don't know that I'm going to have my trading systems on. I'm in the process of switching over to new software, right? And some of the newer software I'm switching over to, with the first one will be Variable. I know Dassan's getting ready to release some updates, so I'm okay with not being on or live this week. I think that we're probably going to turn off the big Euro account that we have here as well. I think we're going to turn this one off for the week, just because I'm pretty sure, regardless of how the election turns out, whatever side you hail from, there could be complications during the election, in which case that's going to, for everybody that doesn't understand markets out there, markets hate uncertainty. It's one of the biggest things that drive them bananas because they can't make a decision one way or the other, long or short, right? So if we have a period of time where it's going to be uncertain, which I think, quite frankly, is going to be the next 3 weeks, I would not have a problem with even the most seasoned individuals having their systems turned off, getting the software updated, making sure you get through the intro videos, and you put your time into something that sort of keeps your powder dry and or prepares you for the future, instead of going out there and trying to be a cowboy. That's my advice. You're going to see me post that in my Telegram channel, and I'm going to be yelling it from the mountaintops because I personally think everybody should have their systems off for the next week or two. Now, if you're in demo, it doesn't really matter, right? You're collecting information, you're running, but in terms of live accounts, okay, I'm not going to have any of them on. So choose and learn from that what you will, but that is just related to mostly just uncertainty in lots of markets, right? As I've told many of you guys, even for some of my youngest, wealthiest clients on the RIA side of my advisory business, I've taken many clients out of stock. Okay, I'm down to maybe a 35% allocation in equities, regardless of how rich or poor the client is or what their age is. We're low. So we're sort of keeping powder dry. I could be dead wrong on this. I don't think so. And even if that is the case, I don't care. I'm taking risk off the table. So that's all I'm going to say on that subject. That is my thinking. I don't know if the developers are running next week. Frankly, I don't care, Sean. But it's a good question because I'm off. All right, so let's take a look at the events specifically for this week. So Tuesday, the 27th, nothing going on Monday. Interesting note, there's actually a bank holiday on a Sunday, New Zealand. So for Tuesday, we've got some Aussie dollar stuff coming out, CPI, red impact, but not as high normally as it would be. Do note that Bank of Canada, so anybody that's trading CAD out there, we've got some pretty big events on Wednesday, basically like an entire central bank conference, if you will. Then on Thursday in the US, we get our advanced GDP. This will actually be a very interesting report. The previous was just clobbered, and this one's expected to be ripping higher because a lot of people are getting back to work in the states that have not imposed draconian lockdown measures. So the rest of the day on Thursday, ECB press conference. Do note this one. Okay. Keep in mind, these times, you guys, are Pacific times. So you'll usually post them in the notes that go up in the back office on Eastern time, but these are Pacific. So just note that if you're taking any notes. If you don't want to take notes, you can just wait for my notes get uploaded in the back office along with all the recordings. So what else do I want to talk about here? Since I don't have any poll capabilities with the corporate Zoom platform here, I'm just going to take a poll. I want to find out what everybody's kind of doing. Who here, and use the chat window, don't raise your hand, just use the chat window. Just type a V in the chat window if you have Variable installed. Now I get it, there's a new version coming out. So I'd sort of just was curious as to who's attempted to install. You maybe have an errors or what have you. We'll get all that corrected. Okay, so if you're not voting, guys, and you're listening to this, jump in the chat window and vote, because I probably should have put a poll together, but we're sort of in limbo, if you will. Plus, we have the election coming up. So, honestly, the only risk stuff you guys are going to be hearing from me is just a light touch on charts, which I'll go into next. But I think it's really a good time, as is everybody's probably going to be sick of hearing me say for the next 2 weeks, to take this opportunity to catch up on, your training. Go in, and if you haven't gone through the Forex Basics course of the Days A. Duncan, I would highly recommend that. It's really great stuff. I picked up a bunch of nuggets from that course, and I'm an old dude in this arena, so I would do that. We'll get variable solved, get it all uploaded and everything on the Forex VPS for everybody. We'll get it all smoothly running, I hope. Cross our fingers. Name of the Father and of the Son. So we'll get all that done. But take the time to put some education in, right? So I always would suggest with students and, whatever, if they can't be trading live for a various group of reasons, that, put the time into a little bit of education. It will do you good, I promise. All right, so let's jump into charts. Feel free to ask questions. And I do like the fact some of these comments are coming in with a more diversified approach to, having an Einstein or an Alexander and a variable. And by the way, Peter, you spell variable with an E. Just kidding. Got to out you, brother. But the ask any questions you guys have. I don't have any clarity. As you guys know, I purposely tried to stay out of the whole phase 2 launch, other than promoting and setting some expectations. I purposely tried to stay out of all the nitty gritty of what's going on. One, I don't have the time or the bandwidth in my brain right now to handle all that. And two, I just want to sit back and have the patience to let everything play out till they can get all the bugs and the quirks and the things that are very, very normal in all software releases. If you guys remember when they first released Windows 10, what a massive face dive, if you will, that was. So, and here's $1 billion, one of the largest companies in the entire planet, that blew an entire launch. So it's not abnormal for that to be the case. And I had almost 2 weeks of disrupted trading systems, because like an idiot back then, I decided to upgrade to Windows 10 early. I should have stayed on, the NT 2012 server platform I was on at the time. So let's talk about the markets. So here's the S&P equities. Even though I know you guys may not be a lover of stocks and or a holder of stocks, you probably will have some in your portfolio at some point down the road. I always recommend looking at the S&P 500 just as a general gauge with what's going on in terms of large, big company equities. So we're really sort of stuck in a indecision. Notice all the dojis, almost 5 of them in a row last week. This is on a daily chart. If we look on a weekly chart, you can see the lift up in equities and so forth. And then this is the drop during the pandemic here, and then we've lifted back up. This is one of the reasons that I've taken some risk off the table in client portfolios. So with that in mind, let's go to the dollar. Now notice we're coming back down towards, and this is a weekly chart, by the way. Let's go to a daily chart on the dollar. Now we're still in this very tight range. I would expect this to look like this for the next couple of weeks. I think we're probably going to be in a hold pattern at least until November 3rd. Okay, so I guess that really is in a couple of weeks. So here's the calendar for those looking here. So here we are today, starting in next week. This is the election. Okay, don't know that we'll have results on the 4th. I think many Americans certainly hope that doesn't get drug out. Right? If we get into this period of time or anything further, we don't have election results. I can almost promise you, currency and equity markets are going to be going bananas. Okay, I can't turn to what degree. Remember, as the pin, as the bowling ball hits the main pin, some of the worst moves are not the first pin, right? It's the ones that are on the outside, what they call an outlier. So if you guys hear me talk about pin action, just think of a bowling ball hitting a big pin. You know, which ones move the furthest? It's the stuff that's on the edge, way in the corners, right? Those are the ones that just get thrown aside. And that's a lot of the miners out there in currencies. GBP NZD guys, I hope you're listening to this, because that's something you can absolutely get tail whipped around. You don't really want to be trading a lot of that crazy stuff, in my opinion, because I don't care how great you are as a manual trader, or if you have the most fabulous algo that exists, it's going to get torn around. So just keep that in mind. So this is the calendar. What else do I want to say? So the black line represents support. The green line is a rough estimation of resistance up at the high. So let's take a look at Euro US dollar. This is the opposite, notice, because the euro comes first for some of our new subscribers. This is the major of all currency pairs. Almost a third of the volume that is traded globally in currency is in this main pair. Okay, so I always look to this right after the dollar in my weekly and or daily views and analysis, and looking just the technicals on what's going on. So we're stuck in a tight range, just like the dollar stuck in a tight range down. You know, I've gotten a lot of forecasts for if it's a contested election, or one side wins and the other side's not expecting, or if there's some sort of civil unrest, how the European and or the Federal Reserve banks, change monetary supply depending on the election. I mean, I hope I'm really wrong the next 2 weeks and everything is super smooth and it goes by the book, right? But you have to plan as a risk manager running whatever ship of investments you're running. You have to plan according to volatility. And even though you may be wrong at some, there is always safety in keeping your capital dry in anticipation of potential volatile events. Okay. All right. So with that being said, what else I want to say here? There's volume at the bottom for some of the questions I've got. Green line is a 200-day MA. Now let's take a look here. Let's make sure. Okay, so let's do USD JPY. Notice we've been in a, again, daily chart. Each of these candles represents a single day of trading. Red down, green, whatever the heck you call that color, up. This is in a trending down type. So we were adhering, if you will, at least till without this one peak and maybe this peak here, we're adhering to the trend. You can even tighten this up a little bit in terms of but we're trending down. So I would expect, and the tough thing about this is I try and stay away from forecasts. Because all these guys are just trying to suck into some subscription, or one of these crazy idiots you see on CNBC with all these great forecasts they so-called. Nobody ever sort of puts them to the test. That's a great thing about Twitter. They're time stamped, right? So if somebody's truly on Twitter making forecasts, you can always go back and see, whether it panned out or not. But I would tell you guys on many of these channels, just, don't pay attention to the majority of these talking heads unless they have a B behind their last name. So that's always been my advice. And especially if that B was self-made in trading, then I'm much more apt to listen to the billionaire hedge fund guys all over the planet, right? The Paul Stingers, the John Passports of the world, those kind of guys that, are nice enough, along with David Tepper, to come on, and albeit, they probably talk their book up a little bit, but, they're nice enough to come out. As Jeffrey Gundlach asks, he's one of my favorite guys of all hedge fund managers. The guy is just ridiculously loaded in LA, runs a company called Double Line Capital, one of the best credit hedge funds out there. But yet he is so generous to go on Twitter and literally just talk about exactly what they're doing. It's almost like he's giving away secrets, right? That's the kind of person that I always suggest that somebody follow. Somebody that's willing to, sort of give up, because he knows if he comes out and says that, right, what's going to happen? All the guys out there trading bonds, they're going to start gaming against his trading desk, right? They're going to game against his book, right? So he's sort of like, it's almost a distraction for the firm when he comes out and talks about stuff. But the guy's just done an amazing job of educating people of what really goes on in money supply from the bond market standpoint, just where he plays in the credit markets. So just know that. You can follow him on my Twitter if you follow me. So USJPY, with the question that's asked, I would expect it probably to trade with some dojis here, some indecision candles all the way up in November 3rd, and then all bets are off at that point. Hey, Steve, could you ask the Einstein developers if they're trading this week and let us know in your Telegram chat later? Okay. I can ask them. Yeah. They have not been that responsive on Telegram. I could tell you guys that. I'm not sure who has a tighter communication with the developers of Einstein and Alexander, but I will jump on the private chat I have with the two of them and ask them. All right. Sandy asks, which are the most common patterns? In terms of just general technical analysis, the most common patterns that typically will show themselves are what's called an inverse head and shoulders, or just a head and shoulders, which is really just a head like you see right here, and two pairs of shoulders. And you have what's called a neckline. So if whatever the pattern is showing up in an inverse or straight up head and shoulders, once it breaks the neckline, it's usually a bearish thing going down. If this is upside down reverse, kind of like maybe this is a sort of a sloppy head and shoulders here. But if this was a pair of shoulders here and it maybe was lower and it breaks the neckline again and has a tendency to run up to the next level of resistance or support. Do keep in mind there, if you guys just Google stock chart patterns, there's tons of websites out there. Tom Bolkowski has written one of the best books on this subject. It's a book that I recommend everybody read. You can go to Amazon and just Google top chart books, and you'll see a lot of Tom's books up in that list. All right. What else do I want to say in this? Let's take a look at GBP NZD just for giggles. Okay. So this stuff could certainly be going on in GBP NZD land. This is the beginning of the, or I should say, the real heat of the pandemic right here. I mean, look at some of this volatility in here. This is massive. In some cases, you're looking at almost 1,000 pips of volatility on this. If you just do a weekly chart, you could see how that played out as well. This is a blow your account move right here. Okay. So if you're trading one of these Wild West currencies without tight stops on whatever pattern, either manually or some form of automated trading, this could be a wild one. So just be aware of that. Here, I'll show you. I'm type it in. I always get the spelling of this last guy's name wrong. Tom Bolkowski. There you go. Put it in the chat window. I may have screwed the name up, but if you just put in Tom Bolkowski chart patterns, you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, guys, I'm actually going to end this early if we don't have any additional questions, because I'd really have you guys, working on other stuff, rather than me going into technical chart patterns. I'd rather have you guys, communicating with the up and down lines, making sure everybody's getting their stuff straightened out. Most importantly, setting proper expectations, right? Don't be impatient, all that kind of stuff. So, here we go. Yeah, let me just do this. Here is my Twitter account. Hopefully you guys see this. Okay, I'm logged in. All right, so here's my Twitter account. You can follow me if you want. I only retweet stuff that's important. But who I follow, and let me just switch back to the main account here. You can always go on just the main, just at FXES Trader is my handle. You can go in and follow the people that I follow, and you can see here's 195. Most of the people that I follow are big names out there, but Jeffrey Gundlach, here, I'll show you, is right here. And I'll tell you, if anybody's handing out Nobel Prizes for the level of education that a billionaire shouldn't have to do, but does anyway, I would be the first one to step up and vote for Gundlach. Company's called Double Line. This is Double Line Capital. By the way, they do offer bond funds, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but some of their bond funds have done exceptionally well. So you guys could go to the Double Line's website if you're looking. These are no load funds. You could buy them at Fidelity, Schwab, TD Ameritrade, anywhere. Any of the brokers out there, no load, no fee. They got some really good funds out here. So that's Double Line. It's Jeffrey stuff. Talks a lot about what goes on. I know a lot of you may hate Twitter and social media. I get it. But there are useful things that you can use these platforms for, as far as free education from exceptionally wealthy people that are willing to be giving of their time. Another gentleman that fits into this position right now is the head trader Hyman Capital. Let's get his name. Hyman Capital Management. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, Kyle Bass. That's right. Kyle is an exceptionally smart guy. Put in his name. Here he is. It's J. Kyle Bass right here. Hyman Capital. This is one of the first guys. He used to be an energy trader. This guy was one of the first guys that figured out the Jeffrey Skilling fraud down in Texas. With Enron. If you guys remember much about what went on with that, this is in the early 2000s. Enron was an energy company that was sort of like the Tesla, the new energy companies, and it found out that they completely been cooking the books and had all kinds of fraud going on. He was one of the first junior analysts at the time that came out publicly and said, we are wicked short this in our new fund. And everybody's like, yeah, you're wrong, you're wrong. And he was wrong for like a year. And then he made an absolute fortune when the stock crashed. So, all right. That is a little bit about, what else do we get as questions here? Let me just cut and paste this here. You know, one thing I hate about the Q&A window inside of Zoom, you can't cut and paste anything. Let's try this. There we go. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, I'm going to paste this in a separate window. Hopefully it shows up. There we go. All right, cool. I think that's everything. I'm just going through my notes here. What else do I want to say? Anybody got anything that they want me to sort of broadcast out there? Let's, not just, there's really nothing to do with technical analysis, but something that I'm missing. Am I forgetting anything in terms of like software times that developers are, going to be presenting? Most of them are going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm not sure we have everybody's times nailed down, but I know that Dasan presents, and he's the first at 11 a.m., and that is Eastern time. So it'd be 8 a.m. for you folks on the Pacific Coast. Oh, aren't we changing clocks back tonight? I forget, are we? We changing clocks back tonight, guys? I forget. I think tonight's clocks change back night, right? So it's probably, I think clocks change back in the U.S. tonight. So remember, it's spring ahead, fall back. November 1st? No, November 1st? Okay. Getting some yeses. So I guess the UK is different than us by what, a week? Or I should say most of the Eurozone, right? I always forget that. So clocks changing in the UK today, guys. Remember that. Or I think anywhere, all Europe, right? Or is it just the UK? I can never get that straight. All right, so look in the chat window and you can take a consensus. There's all kinds of different answers, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, okay. So Mariska says, so it's Europe today, U.S. next week. Okay, and here we go. This is actually a pretty decent link. I've never seen this before. Thanks for posting this. Let's check it out. There we go. Okay, cool. Timeanddate.com. I like it. So tonight, Europe guys, you always hate it because you wake up the next day, you're like, feels like it's the wrong time. It's because it is. It takes a while to get acclimated. And then next week, it's us. So just remember that. So things are going to change as far as the Forex factory, obviously, change in times on all your computer systems that automatically update. But do keep in mind that all the times I'm going to show are going to be off as well. So make sure you make a note of that. All right, cool. What else am I missing? I know there's probably stuff I'm missing. Oh, you know what? Hey, let me show this to you guys. Let me make sure everybody's got this. I'm going to switch over the view to the next window. I actually like this. I'm going to post this too on my Telegram channel. So here, let me share. Make a note of this, guys. If you need to take a screenshot of it, here it is. Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. CET. That's the European conversion. Tyler Mack, the man. Saturday is 11 a.m. Eastern. Desan, Super and Johnny Neutron. I haven't met Killian yet, so I have nothing to say yet. But I understand this guy's absolutely killing it, so maybe his first name is perfect. 11 a.m. Eastern time, Sunday. I'm just going to take a screenshot of this as well. So cool. All right, guys, that's the whole shebang. If anybody's got any questions, you can always send me an email. Vettorel, Vettorel, at AuvoriaPrime.com. Maybe also take this time, too, to make sure once the software is up and running, you guys get it hooked up to a fully verified MyFX book or an FX Blue. Either way, get them hooked up, get it fully verified. If you guys got any questions and anything, put some tickets in. Always the best place to do is to go put tickets in the back office, because that also not only solves your problem, but it allows them to compile data on all of this and make a better experience for all customers. So I am Steve Vettorel. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. I recommend lots of alcohol and fun. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday. May the trades be with you.